Welcome back to All Elite Weekly here on the 830 Wrestling Network. My name is Zachary Morgan, and I hope you all had a great week. Let's get started with the Women's Owen Hart Cup. The wild card person was revealed this past Wednesday, and it was revealed to be none other than Mercedes Moné. Mercedes Moné replaces Willow Nightingale in the bracket, and of course she quickly advanced, defeating Alex Windsor by a submission. I really thought it was going to end up being someone else. My thought process of that being if Mercedes wasn't already in the tournament, or if the wild card spot wasn't already there, there had to be a different plan to bring her back. Unless this was always sort of part of the plan to have Mercedes come in and replace someone, maybe that person for her to replace wasn't always going to be Willow Nightingale, but perhaps someone would have interfered, someone would have gotten disqualified, someone would have done something to where they could not advance in the tournament and they needed a replacement, and maybe that was plan A. But regardless of what plan A was, this is the plan that they went with, Mercedes Moné in the Women's Owen Hart Cup, and at this point I do expect her to win the tournament. She does have history with a lot of the women remaining in this tournament, so let's put a pin in that and talk about what's going on with some of the other people that have already had their matches in the first round on the women's side. Athena beat Mina Shirakawa back at Double or Nothing to advance, and if memory serves correct, this is the last match that I would have to talk about for Double or Nothing, but I don't really feel like there's much that I necessarily need to go over here. The match was good. It was entertaining. Both wrestlers, I think, came out looking good. Mina's in a very fun spot where she doesn't need to win to stay over. The crowd's going to love her regardless, and there's a potential storyline brewing with her since we still don't know who took out Toni Storm. So we may see Mina try and figure out who took Toni out. We may see some other things happen, but there's a lot of direction to go with on screen with Mina to where she didn't need to advance in this tournament to really either stay over or progress her character in any way. There's a ton of storyline options out there for her. As for Athena, before Mercedes was revealed as the wild card, I had her tagged as the likely winner of the tournament. Now, after watching the show and seeing how things have developed, I'm not even sure that Athena is going to be the finalist here. I'm hoping that Athena's appearance in this tournament will lead to seeing more of her on the AEW side, because I do believe that she is top talent. In ROH, we've seen it. I think that can translate to the AEW side as well. I'm curious as to what that path is, and I'm curious as to if they are pulling the trigger on that now, or if they're holding out or holding off on that for another moment or so. But I think the time is nigh, and I think everyone really has wanted to see Athena now for the past year and a half or so, and possibly longer on the AEW side of things. Not to take credit away from what she's doing on ROH, but we want to see her on the program with the TV deal. Let's be real. Or at least I want to see her on the AEW side of things. I can't speak for everyone else out there, but I do believe that the majority of people want to see Athena in AEW more than those who do not. Now, to add to my lack of confidence in what I think is going to happen in this tournament playing out, aside from Mercedes Moné winning the tournament, Hazuki beat Persephone to advance, and I really honestly did not see that coming. It felt like Persephone was on the verge of getting pushed, and I'm just not sure. They definitely have something going on. She got sprayed in the eye by Julia Hart with some mist, and that's been affecting her vision over these past few weeks. And afterwards, Mercedes Moné and Persephone do have some history where Persephone is the current CMLL Women's World Champion, and she beat Mercedes Moné to get that belt. Mercedes Moné, we saw her attack Persephone after, so Mercedes came back, and it's not just she's coming for this tournament, she's coming for blood. She's coming for the people who wronged her. She made a long list of enemies during that lengthy TBS championship reign, and before Willow Nightingale got hurt, I can't help but think that maybe that was part of the plan, because Mercedes definitely wants a shot at Willow Nightingale, and she wants to get that TBS title back. But in the meantime, you have her focus on the Owen, and you have her go after that one belt that she was not able to touch during that entire reign, where she was Mercedes Ultimo Moné with all the 13 belts, or however many it was. So an absurd amount of belts. The necessity of having multiple belt boys, including Tommy Invincible out there, just to carry her belts for a pay-per-view entrance one time. It was a lengthy run, and we're seeing her step right back into that heel role as the CEO, and we're in for something this summer. Whatever it is that we are in for, it starts and ends with Mercedes Moné in the women's division, 100%. And I do think that Mercedes Moné versus Tekla or whoever is holding that AEW Women's World Championship by the time All In rolls around is inevitable at this point. But before we get to All In, we do have to finish the Owen Hart Cup tournament on both the men's and women's side. The women's first round will conclude this coming Wednesday when we see Sky Blue take on Surrey, and we'll see where it goes from there. We did also have Sky Blue and Tekla sort of have a semi-confrontation. I don't know. Go watch the scene for yourself. That was from the episode of Collision from May 30th, if I'm not mistaken, where they have a little back and forth during a backstage interview, and Sky Blue gave us a little wink at the end. So who knows what's coming there? I do think that we're going to see a separate Triangle of Madness storyline, and it's possible that we see Sky Blue at some point break away and maybe challenge for that world title. It wouldn't shock me. Before we get there, again, her match in the Owens Women's Hart Cup tournament will take place this coming Wednesday, and we will see what happens. We saw MJF make his first title defense in his third championship reign, and we saw him make that title defense against Roosh. And it was a great match, but that's not really what I want to talk about in this case. We're doing a build for Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door is a pay-per-view that is produced by AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, as well as their sister company in Stardom, and CMLL. So CMLL is relevant because of how Roosh and Dragon Lee left CMLL. Now, Dragon Lee is, of course, in WWE, so this does not necessarily matter for him right now. But it matters for his brothers. His brothers are both Roosh and Dralistico. Dralistico is the guy who took on the Mystico mask after the original Mystico and current Mystico went to WWE to become Sin Cara for a little bit. Things happened, middle. Dralistico ends up becoming Dralistico after he's no longer in the Mystico mask and Mystico reclaimed his mask. I don't know the specifics of how that happened, and I'm sorry. Perhaps I'll look that up. That sounds like it might be a good story, to be honest with you. But regardless, both Roosh and Dralistico will likely never be included on the card for Forbidden Door, as the way Roosh and Dragon Lee were let go from CMLL after Roosh appeared on Death Before Dishonor, but not CMLL's 86th anniversary show back in 2019, that got both of them fired. The reason for them being fired was stated to be not following guidelines set by CMLL's programming department. And I say all of this background to go back to the match, where the match was entertaining, there were great spots, but at no point did I think during that match that there was a particular spot where there was, there's no way MJF can get up from that. It was a fun match to watch, but I knew what the finish had to be, and that took away from it for me. I wasn't able to suspend my disbelief during that match, for whatever that's worth. Roosh is a fantastic wrestler, and he deserves a lot better than whatever this situation is, but because of what this situation is, it took away from what that match should have been. Now, MJF is going to likely be facing Mark Briscoe at Forbidden Door. That works for me. They've had a good back and forth against each other. That tables and tax match, Back It All Out, was really good. And Mark Briscoe's fun to watch. MJF is fun to watch. It's going to be a fun feud. It's another one where we probably know how it's going to play out. But that's one where I can suspend my disbelief. That's one where Mark Briscoe we've seen Mark Briscoe bring MJF to depths that not even Hangman Adam Page could really bring him to. So that rivalry has a lot of juice to it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it plays out as we build up to Forbidden Door. Kevin Knight has joined the Don Callis family, and as abrupt as that transition seems, that's about as abrupt as it seemed he joins the Don Callis family. We saw a teaser for it on one episode where, hey, if you want to become Kevin Two Belts, you have my number. He thinks about it for a second, and I guess that's it. He just joins the Don Callis family. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and trust the process here, but my initial reaction is pretty much exactly that. Rather abrupt. I'm not sure where we're going. I don't know if this necessarily needed to happen, but we do have two heels now trying to establish themselves on their own in Swerve Strickland and Tommaso Ciampa, and you just turned Kevin Knight heel, so I'm gonna trust the process here. I think Kevin Knight could have been good on his own, but perhaps if he's on his own, then you immediately need to have him do something with Swerve Strickland, because they've had a few exchanges backstage where Swerve Strickland told Kevin Knight, if you want to walk amongst killers, you have to become a killer. We see someone trying to become a killer as well that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But maybe Kevin Knight is joining the Don Callis family to learn how to be a killer. Maybe Kevin Knight is joining the Don Callis family because we're getting ready to see a bunch of people potentially leave the Don Callis family. Maybe, just maybe, hear me out, just maybe, we're going to see Andrade turn face. It could happen. He's already sort of in that weird spot. Andrade is getting great reactions from the crowd. Andrade has been putting in fantastic work in AEW that, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't watching the episode live. When my friend texted me that, guess who's back, and it's Andrade, I really wasn't sure what to expect. I thought the whole storyline was funny. I thought it was that's not nice. That's not nice to say. But I was entertained by the turn of events that led to Andrade reappearing in AEW, and I wasn't sure to be excited. I missed Andrade's first run in AEW. I didn't know really much of what happened. Like, I went back and I watched, of course, Jeff Hardy's debut is when Andrade and the Hardy family office, or Hardy, whatever that faction was, turned their backs on Matt Hardy with Private Party. Outside of that, I haven't seen much of Andrade's work during his first run with AEW. I just know he was in WWE. He was good when he was on screen. I enjoyed his matches with Carmelo Hayes for sure. But I don't know. He clearly left AEW on good terms with Tony Khan, and that led to his seamless return. And now he's being presented as solid main event talent, and he's legitimately that good right now. He's in great shape, and the crowd loves him. If that's a guy that you want to turn babyface, that makes sense to me. But that was another addition to the Don Callis family where I was unsure of what's going on, but I trusted the process, and now I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. He's not the most perfect member of the Don Callis family. He's probably one of the more conflicted members of the Don Callis family based on his affiliations in New Japan as well. He's a member of United Empire. United Empire is run by Callum Newman, who is they are faces in New Japan. So I look at Andrade's position and I see that as somewhat malleable. So if you have that, I guess the addition of Kevin Knight then makes sense. Plus, I mean, it always makes sense from the Don Callis perspective of Don Callis just wants all the people. It's never, I will always understand why Don Callis is trying to recruit people. I understand the motivations of Don Callis. That's not the issue. The problem is I don't understand the motivations of Kevin Knight and why he would do such a thing. Because it's never, you don't just leave the Don Callis family. We've seen that. The Don Callis family, you leave that bloodied and bruised. Just ask Takeshita. Just ask Takeshita. We'll see where it goes. Again, I'm gonna trust the process on Kevin Knight joining the Don Callis family. And you know what? To Kevin's credit, the Don Callis family did help Kevin Knight retain by interfering in his match against Speedball Mike Bailey. Did they really need to interfere in his match against Speedball Mike Bailey? I'm not totally sure, but I don't think this will be the last time we see Kevin Knight face off against Speedball Mike Bailey. In fact, you could probably convince me that at some point in the next week or so, Speedball Mike Bailey is going to come out and say, oh, I got screwed in my match against Kevin Knight for the TNT Championship, which, yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue that, Mike. But I could definitely see Kevin Knight saying, hey, well, you already technically got your shot, so if you want another shot, you got to jump through X, Y, and Z. So I think we'll see this feud extend through at least Forbidden Door, possibly through Redemption, but I don't know if it gets its payoff at All In. Maybe it should, but I don't know if that happens. Either way, there's a ton of wiggle room here. You've got a lot of different directions you can go with the Don Callis family and Kevin Knight. And yeah, I'll say it for, I believe, the fourth time. Let's see where it goes. You've got my attention at least. I want to end the episode today talking a little bit about what's going on with Will Ospreay and the Death Riders. First of all, on the men's Owen Hart Cup tournament side of things, Will Ospreay advances to the finals by submitting Mark Davis. Will Ospreay will face whoever wins between Swerve Swerve Strickland and Brody King at Forbidden Door. Again, if it's not Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland at Forbidden Door, we riot. I stand by that. We will organize how that works in places to be determined later. I really hope I don't have to put my money where my mouth is, because I really don't want to have to riot. I just don't want to have to. But if we have to, we will. So before we go there, though, Will Ospreay did win despite Don Callis family interference, thanks in big part to Jon Moxley and the Death Riders having his back and neutralizing the Don Callis family's interference. He was able to submit Mark Davis. Shout out to Mark Davis. The guy has really won me over in the past year, and that's why he is our national champion. Because, of course, we put belts on wrestlers who singularly appeal to me. No, I'm just kidding. Mark Davis has won over a ton of people, and he's been putting on great performances all year, especially since being called upon to go solo after Jack Doyle got hurt. Jack Doyle has recently returned. Welcome back, Jack. He's been a ton of fun to watch, and he absolutely deserves to be the national champion, and I'm enjoying what he's doing so far. We haven't seen him defend that belt much in the past few weeks. I think that's likely to change over the next couple weeks. I'm not sure how long he holds on to the belt, but I'm happy he has it. I'm happy he's got a singles championship in AEW. Once again, he deserves it. Going back to our main focus, though, Will Ospreay and the Death Riders. We're really starting to see Will Ospreay benefit from the Death Riders not only training him a little bit, not only helping him find that killer instinct, but having his back in defending him against a vicious assault from members of the Don Callis family who were ringside for most of the match, if not the entire time. But Will Ospreay is really starting to look a lot more like his old self, too. We're seeing him really start to pick up momentum in these matches again, and we're seeing Will benefit from the tutelage of Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. We're seeing that killer instinct more and more. And to go into how this main event was presented, it was a great match and an exciting finish. And this is a situation where, yes, we knew based on what they've been building, how this is being presented. I have a hard time believing, if you've been watching AEW, that if you didn't think that Will Ospreay was going to win that match going into it, I have a hard time believing you in a lot of ways based on how they've been telling the story and what we're building towards. However, in this situation, there were tons of moments in this match where I thought, oh my God, maybe they're going to pull the trigger. Maybe we're going to see something different. They were able to get me to suspend my disbelief in this match in ways that they just simply weren't during the MJF and Roosh match. That's the bottom line here. It was so much fun. It was really exciting. I was on the edge of my seat as we saw each interference, each big spot, each big maneuver until we finally saw the finish where Will Ospreay doesn't go get him with the hidden blade and then go for the pin. No. He listens to Jon Moxley and he goes in for that submission. Will Ospreay chooses to show us the killer instinct that he has been training with not only Jon Moxley, but the rest of the Death Riders. Who, after he had that tag match with Mox and Pac, it really seems like Will is starting to win over the rest of the group. And you know, it works. This all works, at least for me. And I think the reason this works for me goes back to World's End this past year, when Jon Moxley, after winning the Continental Classic, is going on that promo in the ring, talking about how he found the love for wrestling again. That promo allowed me, at least, to start viewing the Death Riders in a different light from being these be-all, end-all top heels, and it sort of opened that position up in the company. Now, you can argue it's either the Ops or the Don Callis family who are sort of the number one heels in the company, but you can't, with a straight face, if you've been watching the show, tell me the Death Riders are a straight-up heel faction. They are a tweener faction that kind of goes by their own code in a lot of ways. They have their own motivations, and yeah, they have heelish tendencies, but we've seen them also take on not a baby face role, but we've seen them do the right thing. We've seen Jon Moxley give respect to Kyle O'Reilly. We've seen Jon Moxley give respect to other people a lot since World's End. We've also seen it happen more often with the Death Riders. Now, Does that mean I think that we're going to see Claudio Castagnoli start smiling all the time? No. But we saw Pac crack a smile in being pleased with how Will Ospreay was doing, or with something that Will Ospreay did during that tag match. We're seeing a little bit of a lighter side of some of the members of the Don Callis family. We will never see a lighter side of Marina Shafir. That's just not how that works. Marina Shafir is a killer. The Death Riders will never be faces, but they're just not heels right now either. It is what it is. They are a tweener faction. They go by their own code, as cliche as that sounds. They've got their own motivations, and their motivations seem to be related to putting up a good fight, and they value more than anything else toughness, mental toughness, and victory. Thank you so much for joining this episode of All Elite Weekly. Please leave a comment down below, like and subscribe. I'm Zachary Morgan with the 830 Wrestling Network, and we will see you next time.